everyone, welcome to this video. Today I'm going to give you a tour of my new Google Sheets 12-month social media content planner. This is going to be a full tour, so I'm going to walk you through how the template looks like when you first receive it, and I'm going to show you how you fill it out step by step. So if you already have the template, it's a great idea to follow along and fill out your own version while you're watching the video. So let's get into it. We're going to start in the initial setup tab. This is where you're going to customize the template before you start working on it. So all you have to do is follow the steps and keep scrolling until you're done. So the first thing you're going to do is set the month in which you want your template to begin. So the template will work with any start month, any year. All you have to do is select a month from the dropdown and then set a year right next to that. And the rest of the dates will adapt accordingly throughout the template for the other 11 months. The next step is to decide if you want your calendar to start on a Sunday or on a Monday. So by default, I added Sunday, but you can change that to Monday if that fits your needs. Now, if you scroll to the right, you're going to find step 3, and this is where you're going to customize your dropdowns. So for every single post that you add in your content planner, you're going to be able to select a platform, decide the format that you're going to be using, assign that post to one of your content pillars, set a goal for that post, and then you can track the status of the post. So this section right here controls the 5 custom columns that you're going to find inside each of your monthly content planner tabs. So you can find your 12 monthly content planner tabs down here. If you scroll to the right, they all look the same. So if I jump into the first one, you're going to find your 5 custom columns over here. And each of these columns includes drop downs that are filled out with the elements that you add in the initial setup tab. So these are just my suggestions of what you can use these 5 custom columns for. If you would like to use them for something different, all you have to do is delete the current title and add in a new one, team member, for example, and then delete the current elements and add in new ones. So just do team member, Rachel, Monica, and Ross, for example, and then every single one of your 12 monthly content planner tabs will be updated with this information. And now I have team member as my last custom column, and the elements that I added are inside each of these drop downs, so I can easily select them. So you don't have to change this right away. You can become familiar with how the template works first and then come back here and create your own structure. So I'm just going to bring this back to status. And then if you scroll to the right, you're going to find step 4. And what you're going to do here is you're going to customize your content creation workflow by adding the steps that you need to follow to get each of your posts ready. So you have room for a maximum of 10 customizable steps. I added a few suggestions, but you can change this to whatever you prefer. And whatever you change here is going to automatically update every single one of your 12 monthly content planner tabs. So if I jump into one and I scroll to the right, you're going to find that for every single post, you get a checklist. And up here, you're going to see the steps that you added in the initial setup tab. So once you fill this table out, let me show you an example. This is just some random information that I added. So once you fill this out, you're going to be able to use the checkboxes to keep track of your progress for each of your posts. So this is completely optional, and you can leave the elements that I added, or you can jump into the initial setup tab, delete these items and replace them with your own, and that will update every single checklist on every single monthly tab. And then for step 5, you're going to follow these instructions to set your time zone to make sure that your dates are always updating properly based on where you are in the world. So to do that, you're going to click on File, Settings, and then from this window that appears, you're going to jump into time zone and you're going to select your proper time zone, and then you're going to click on Save Settings. So that's just going to make sure that your current day is always updating properly. So that's it for the initial setup, and now you can start working on your template. So we're going to do that by jumping into the Annual Planner tab. You can either use this link right here, or you can find it in your tabs below. So I'm just going to click on that, and this is what the Annual Planner tab looks like. So if you scroll down, you're going to find a separate section for each of your 12 months. And the purpose of this tab is to give you a space where you can map out your month before it begins. So you can start by setting your top 3 goals for the month, your content creation goals. You can paste links here that you're going to be accessing repeatedly throughout the month. And then in this table right here, you can make a list of important dates that are relevant to your content creation. It could be holidays, it could be the launch of a new product, it could be the start part of a challenge. So any date that's relevant to your content creation, you're going to add that here. And to add a new date, you're going to double click on any of these cells and then pick a date from the calendar that appears. Super important, it has to be a date that belongs to the section that you're working on. And then you're going to set a time. This is optional. It could be 3 p.m., for example, and then the event, sale begins. So once you type the name of the event and you assign a date, this day will be automatically highlighted in the calendar. So if I change this to 16, for example, now 16 is getting highlighted in the calendar. So you can have a visual reference of which days have important dates assigned to them. And then you have a to-do list in case you need to add any extra tasks or reminders for this month, and you have room for notes. So let me show you an example on a version that I already filled out a bit more. So I added a couple of goals up here. And then in this section, in the important links, what I like to do is first I like to add a name so I can easily remember what this link is. And then in the second column, I paste the actual link. And then there's a list of important dates over here, and every single one of these dates is getting highlighted automatically in this calendar. And you have a list of tasks. So if you accomplish a goal, you can use the checkboxes to track that. And then once you're done with a task, you can also use the checkboxes and it'll get scratched automatically. So all of this is completely optional. Every single one of your 12 months gets a section that looks and works exactly the same. So once you're done mapping out your month, what you're going to do is you're going to start working on your actual content plan. And you're going to do that by jumping into your first content planner tab. So you can either use this link right here that says edit content plan for this corresponding month, or you can find the tab that you're going to be working on at the bottom. Remember, you have to scroll to the right to find all 12 monthly tabs. So I'm going to go back to my blank version and I'm going to jump into my first monthly content planner tab. So super important, your tabs are numbered from 1 to 12, and the first tab will always belong to the month that you set as your start month. And you can rename these tabs by double clicking and then typing in a new name. So what you're going to be seeing here is the table where you're going to create your content plan for this month. And everything is optional. The only thing that's mandatory is that you type in an idea. The moment that you add an idea, this row will be activated and it will count as a piece of content. So if there's no idea in here, this row will not count. So let's take a look at an example of a version that I already filled out. This is what your content table could end up looking like. So you start off with an idea, and then you're going to select items from your dropdowns. Remember, you customized this at the beginning in the initial setup. Then you're going to set the date in which you're going to be posting this, and you're going to do that by double clicking on the date cell and then selecting your day. You can add a time. Super important. When you are adding times, you need to add them in the proper format so they are sorted properly in your calendars later on. So that format is the hour colon, the minutes, space, and then either AM or PM. So just make sure that you are not using the 24-hour format. Make sure that this is the format that you're going to be using. And as you can see, whenever I hover over the time, this note appears. So I'm going to add reminders like this everywhere throughout the template that you're going to be able to see whenever you hover over a cell that has this black triangle in the top right corner. So you add the basic information, you set the date, you set the time, and then you have 3 columns that are going to help you build your caption. So in this first one, you're going to add the main content of your caption. Then you're going to add your call to action, and then you're going to add your hashtags. And then you have a cell where you can add an image. So you add images inside cells by selecting the cell and then clicking on Insert, Image, and then insert image in cell. Super important that you choose the option in cell so that it stays connected to the row. And then you can browse, look for your image, and it will be added automatically. And then you have some room for notes and you have space to add a link in case that's useful to you. Maybe you are going to be linking to a specific product, so you can add that here. And then this column right here, the one named copy paste, you're not supposed to do anything here. This is automated. It has a gray background to remind you of that. And what's going to happen here is your caption, your call to action, and your hashtags are going to be joined together automatically in a single cell that's ready for you to copy and paste. So you can take this cell, copy it, and then paste it somewhere else. And then if you keep scrolling, you're going to find a checklist. These are the steps that we added in the initial setup tab. So once the caption is done, you check this box, your hashtags are ready. So once everything's ready, you check every single box. So every single row works exactly the same way. And I also included a checkbox over here that's going to gray out out an entire row. So every time I check this box, that row gets grayed out. That can mean anything you want. It can mean that it's already posted. It can mean that it's ready to be posted. All this checkbox does is gray out the row. So you can use that however you prefer, or you can completely ignore it. So these are all the columns that are included in your monthly content planner tab. And then if you scroll down, you're going to find that I added 150 rows, but you can actually insert as many new rows as you want. The only rule is that you do it somewhere in the middle of the table. You should never add new rows above the first row or below the last row. So if you want to insert a new row, you can right click on a row number, select the option insert one row below, and then you can use that row normally. And super important to keep in mind when you're adding new rows is that the post numbers will shift around. So if you take a look at this row, for example, right now this is post number 5, but if I insert a new row in the table, then it becomes post number 6. So the post number will always represent the row where you can find this piece of content in your table, but it will move around if you insert new rows. So I'm just gonna delete these rows that I added. And then if you scroll to the right, you're going to find a specific post view. So what you're gonna do here, there's only one thing you need to do. You're gonna use this drop down and you're gonna select a post number. So as you can see, there's numbers right next to each post. So let's say I wanna visualize the first one, I'll just pick the number 1, and all of that information is going to get loaded automatically into this view. So you don't have to do anything here. This whole section is view only, and it's a place for you to visualize each individual piece of content in a nicer way. So instead of having one big table, you can take a look at each post individually. Your image is going to be bigger, and everything that you added from the idea all the way to the notes is going to show up here. So you have your idea, the date, the time. These are your selections for your 5 custom dropdowns. This is your checklist. So if I uncheck boxes, you're going to see that you're going to get an X, and then boxes that are checked get a check mark. You have your notes, and then this section right here is joining together the caption, call to action, and the hashtags that you added on each individual cell. You're seeing them all together in a really nice view. And if you need to copy and paste this information, you're not going to copy it from here. You're going to copy it from this cell right here. So this cell has this exact same text, but in a format that you're going to be able to use to copy and paste somewhere else. So this will happen for every single post. You can dynamically select a different post. You're going to be seeing its information. And if you need to jump into that specific row, you can hover over this link and then click on the blue link. And that's going to bring you to that specific post. So that works exactly the same way for every single row. And super important, for you to be able to select a post, there has to be an idea in that row. If you don't add an idea text, this number will not show up in the dropdown. And if you scroll back to the beginning, you're going to notice I also added a section meant for highlight filters. So if I wanted to highlight only the rows that belong to Instagram, for example, I would select Instagram. And then if I only wanted Instagram Reels, I'll do Reel as well. And then only the posts that are meant for inspiration. So if I select inspiration. So as you can see, as I am narrowing down my filters, less and less rows are getting highlighted. So only rows that match every single one of my selections are going to get highlighted. And if you want to get rid of a filter, all you have to do is select it and press delete on your keyboard. And as you can see over here, you can also filter by date. So if I double click on the date cell, I can pick any date from this calendar and those rows will be highlighted automatically. And again, to get rid of that filter, all I have to do is select it and press delete on my keyboard. Now, as you may recall, you can use these checkboxes to gray out specific rows. And when you're using your filters, those rows will be included. As you can see, this first one, even though the box is checked, it's being included in the filters. So if you don't want that to happen and you don't want rows that have a box checked included in your filters, all you have to do is uncheck this box. So as you can see, only rows that don't have a box checked are being highlighted even though they match the filter. So you can check this and uncheck this as often as you like. So if you're following along, you can pause the video and add add a couple of entries into this table, a couple of pieces of content, so that you have something to visualize in your calendar view. And once you're ready, we're going to jump into the calendar view tab. You can always do that by clicking on this blue link up here, or you can find the tab down below. So I'm just going to jump using this link. And initially, your calendar is going to be completely empty. The first thing you have to do is you have to select the month that you want to visualize. And you're going to do that by using this drop down right here. So if you click here, you're going to see every single one of your 12 months. So I'm just going to do the one in which I added information, that's January. And as soon as I make a selection, you're going to see that all of the information that I added in my January monthly content planner tab got loaded automatically into the calendar. So most of this is view only, and all of these settings down here are completely optional, and they're going to help you control the information that's being shown in the calendar. So for every single post that you added, you're going to be seeing the time, the post number, and then your 5 custom drop-down selections, and then you're going to see the idea text. So that's going to happen for every single post that you added. And then, as you may recall, when we were working on our annual planner tab, there was a space where you could add important dates. So every single date that you add here is also going to be included in the calendar view by default. So if I jump back into the annual planner and I take a look at January 1st, for example, you have New Year kickoff at 9 a.m. So if I go back to the calendar, you're going to see that important event displayed on that specific day. So whenever there's an important event, you're going to be seeing it with this red pin. So whenever there's a red pin at the beginning, that means that's an important date and it came from what you added in your annual planner tab. And as you may recall, when you were adding important events into this annual planner, they were getting highlighted automatically in this mini calendar. So that same thing is going to happen in the calendar view. Whenever you have an important date assigned to that day, that date will be highlighted in this blue background. So as you can see, let's take a look at January 7, you have an important date there. January 1st, you have an important date there. So those highlights will happen automatically. And then as I mentioned, you can use these settings down here to control the information that's going to be displayed in the calendar. So for example, I could filter this so that I'm only seeing posts that belong to a specific platform. So let's say I wanted to do Instagram. Immediately, every single piece of content that does not have Instagram as their platform selected gets removed from the calendar. And you're also going to notice that there was a change in this mini calendar up here. So if I get rid of the filter, you're going to notice that every single day has a bold and black number. So whenever numbers are bold and black, that means that there is a post assigned to that day. So if I select Instagram, some days are going to be left empty, and those empty days, January 6th, for example, they're going to be grayed out. So this is just a visual reference of the days that have posts in them. Similar to how a blue background means that there's an important date, a black and bold number means there's a post in that day. So if I keep on filtering, I'm going to keep on removing every piece of content that does not match my filters. And then less and less days are going to get highlighted in the calendar with a bold black number. So I'm just going to delete every single filter. And then if you keep scrolling down, you're going to find some display settings. So if you don't want your important dates to be shown in the calendar, you're going to uncheck this box. So immediately, since there are no important dates here anymore, you're not going to be seeing any blue backgrounds. So all you're going to be seeing now is your content plan, no important dates. And you can turn that off and on as often as you like. And then you can do the opposite. You could keep important dates on and then choose to not show your content plan by unchecking this box below. So now all you're seeing is important dates. You're not seeing the content plan anymore because you unchecked this box. So I'm just going to bring that content plan back. And then by default, you're always going to be seeing all of your 5 drop-down selections for every piece of content. If you don't want to see a specific one, you can just uncheck the box. And if you uncheck every single one of these, all you're going to be seeing is the time, the post number, and the idea text. So you can check them and uncheck them as often as you need. And then by default, you're always going to be seeing a space between every single piece of content. So if you want to get rid of this space for some reason, you can uncheck this box, or you can bring it back by checking the box. And then if you take a look at the first week, you're going to notice there's some empty spaces over here. That's because these spaces belong to a different month than the one I selected. And the same thing happens at the bottom. We're going to see empty spaces for the days that no longer belong to this specific month that I selected. So there might be times where you want to see the entire week all together, even though these first few days don't match this month. So let me show you an example. I'm going to jump into February. I already filled that one out. So I only have one day that belongs to February in my first week, but I want to see this entire week get filled out, even though these days belong to January. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this show days from adjacent months box. If I scroll back up, I am now going to see this entire week get filled out with the days that belong to the previous month, and then I get February 1st. So days that belong to adjacent months are going to be highlighted in a different color so you don't get confused. And the same thing is going to happen down below. I have 6 weeks available, so they're all going to get filled out with the information from the next month, and they're going to get highlighted in a different color. And if you only want to see days from the month that you have selected, you uncheck this box and then you'll only see February, for example. So I'm going to go back to displaying January. And then if you don't want your important dates to be highlighted on this mini calendar, you can uncheck this box. And now, even though there are important dates, nothing's getting highlighted here. I'm just going to bring that back. And finally, if you add very long texts into your idea text, they will be cut off at 50 characters by default. So you can change that number over here if you want to change that behavior. So for example, let's take a look at this idea text, unboxing new arrivals. If I only want to show 10 characters, I can change this to 10, and then it's going to get cut off at 10 characters, and 3 dots are going to be added in the end. So whenever you see these 3 dots, that means your text got cut off. And the same thing goes for important dates. You could do 10, for example. So I'm just going to bring it back to the default. If you don't want anything to be cut off, just add a very big number in here. And then if you are adding more than 2 or 3 posts per day and you think this isn't enough space, what you can do is take a look at rows that don't have anything in these sections and use those to expand your tables. So for example, this one right here, I can expand that row and make it taller. So I'm not messing anything up here, and I am expanding my calendar at the same time. So the same thing goes for this row. For example, there's nothing here. So if I expand this row, I'm not going to mess anything up, and I'm going to be able to see even more content. So if you end up adding more than 2 or 3 posts per day, you might need to expand this. You would use this row for this section, and then you can use any row for these sections below. And finally, if you scroll to the right, you're going to find a specific posts view. This is exactly the same view that you have on your monthly content planner tabs. Again, all you have to do here is pick a post, and then you're going to see all the information for that specific post. So if I wanted to see this one, for example, post number 7, I would just get rid of this, choose the number 7, and then everything that I have here is being displayed here along with all of the extra information that I added in my monthly content planner tab. Again, you can copy and paste this section right here that joins together your caption, call to action, and hashtags. And if you want to jump to that particular month, you can use this link right here. You hover over this and you click on the blue link, and that brings you back to your monthly content planner tab. So you can always jump back and forth between your calendar and your content planner tabs by using these links. So whenever you see something that's underlined, that's going to be a link, and you can use it to easily access other parts of the template. So now that I'm back in my content planner tab, I'm going to scroll to the right, and we're going to take a look at this section right here that we didn't use before. This section belongs to the hashtag manager. So the hashtag manager is completely optional. It's an extra tab that I added over here. You can jump into it by using this link, or you can find the tab down below. So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to show you how it works. This is a version that I already filled out, but I'm just going to jump into a blank one so you can see how it looks like when you first receive it. It's completely empty and it looks like this. So what you have here is room to create a maximum of 100 hashtag groups, and the way you create a group is you start by giving it a name. So I'm just going to do fitness tips, for example, and super important, group names have to be unique. And then down below, I'm just going to paste some tags that I already had ready. And as you can see, I'm just doing one tag per row, and there are no spaces, no symbols, just one tag per row. And there's space for you to add a maximum of 30 tags per group. And then if you scroll down, you're going to see your tags grouped by space, by hashtag, or by commas. This is just a visual reference so you can see how it would look like. You don't have to do anything here. And then I'm going to jump into a version that's filled out a bit more. So as you can see, every single group works exactly the same way. You add the name and then you add the tags below. And with every new group that you add, this table right here is going to get filled out automatically, and you can easily use these links to jump into a specific group. So if you wanted to jump to group 15, you can just use this link instead of having to scroll. And this table is going to be sorted by number by default, but if you want to sort it by group name, you can change that here. If you ever need to copy and paste the entire group of hashtags somewhere outside of the spreadsheet, you can use this section right here. So by default, your tags will be joined together by the hashtag symbol. If you want to change that, you can join them by a comma instead. As you can see over here, they're now joined by a comma or by a space. All of them are going to change, and you can change them dynamically. So if you're following along, make sure that you add at least one group name and give that group some hashtags. So as I was creating this section, I really wanted you to have a way to easily copy and paste hashtags into your monthly content plan without having to come back to this tab every single time. So this is what I came up with. You're going to jump into any monthly content planner tab, and you're going to scroll to the right until you find this section up here. As you can see, select the hashtag group, copy and paste. So it's right above the call to action and the hashtags. I'm just going to delete all of these hashtags that I have as an example. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to find a group of hashtags. You can use the drop down. You can also start typing, so your groups are going to get filtered, and then you can use the arrows to select a group. So once you have a group selected, immediately after, you're going to notice that the tags that belong to that group are going to get loaded automatically into this cell. And then to use that group, all you have to do is copy that cell and then paste it down below on the corresponding post. And by default, they are going to be separated by hashtags, but you can also do a comma or you can do a space. And once you paste it on each individual post, if you need to make any manual edits, all you have to do is select the cell, press enter on your keyboard, and then maybe delete one if you're not using it, or change one if that's what you need. So every time you create a new group, it's going to be loaded into this drop down right here, and when you select it, those hashtags will show up in this cell to the right. And super important, I prepared this cell so that it could be copied and pasted into this table without messing up any of the formatting. So if you ever need to paste hashtags from some other source outside this tab, outside the spreadsheet, the way you're going to paste to make sure that you don't lose your formatting is by right-clicking, paste special, values only. So when you paste this way, you ensure that you're only pasting the text and you're not bringing with you anything else. So every single monthly tab looks and works exactly the same way. And if you ever need to quickly jump into the hashtag manager, you can use this link right here. And finally, I also included one additional bonus tab. So if you ever have an idea for a post and you don't want to add it to a specific month right away, you don't know where you're going to be posting it, you got inspired by something and you need to save it somewhere, you're going to save it in the idea brain dump tab. So you have room to add the idea, and then your 5 custom columns are going to be found here as well. You can also add a link, and then once you're ready to use an idea, all you have to do is select those 6 cells, the idea and the 5 custom columns, copy it, jump into the corresponding monthly tab, select the idea cell, right click, paste special, values only, and then you can start filling out the rest of the information. And then if you need a reminder that you already used an idea, you can use this checkbox right here, and as you can see, the numbers will turn green and the checkbox will turn green. So this is completely optional, but there if you need it. And finally, there's an extra tab that we haven't used until now, and it's the main menu. You're going to notice that every single tab that we've used so far has a main menu link at the top. So if you hover over that and then you click on the blue link that appears, you're going to jump into a main menu tab that's going to help you easily navigate the template. So you can use all of these links to jump into the corresponding sections, and then you can always come back to the main menu using this link that you're going to find at the top left corner of every tab. And once the 12 months are over, the proper way to start fresh is to create a new blank copy of the template, and you're going to do that using this link right here. So you create a new copy, you set a new start month, and you start fresh on a new set of of 12 months, and you can keep going every year. The template will work with any start month. It's not tied to any particular month or year. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and I will be happy to answer them. I'm gonna leave my email in the description. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.